Hello dear friends, as usual once again it's hearty welcome in this new online lecture. Dear friends, all of you are known, in my previous lecture we have started the study of structure of human brain. We know that the human brain is broadly divided into three main divisions such as forebrain, second midbrain and hindbrain. Forebrain may be known as prosencephalon, midbrain as mesencephalon and hindbrain as rhombencephalon. आपण मागच्या लेक्चरला ह्यूमन ब्रेनच्या अभ्यासाला सुरुवात केलेली आहे आणि ह्यूमन ब्रेनचे तीन प्रमुख भाग पाडले जातात सच as forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. We have already completed in very detail about the structure of forebrain. We know that forebrain consists of three main parts such as cerebrum or telencephalon, olfactory lobes that is rhinencephalon and diencephalon that is thalamencephalon. Here I have drawn the diagram showing vertical section or sagittal section of brain. Look here in this diagram. With the help of this pink color, I have shown the largest part of brain, that is nothing but the telencephalon or cerebrum. Then here are olfactory lobes. We know olfactory lobes, these are paired structures and present anteroventral to the cerebral hemispheres. And the third major part of forebrain is diencephalon, which consists of three parts such as epithalamus, thalami and hypothalamus. So here I want to tell you once again that the forebrain or prosencephalon, it consists of three major parts, namely cerebrum, then olfactory lobes and diencephalon. Here in this diagram I have shown the three parts of diencephalon, that is epithalamus, thalamus and hypothalamus. You know, it may be called as the thalamencephalon. Now today here in this lecture we people have to learn about the midbrain, that is mesencephalon, and hindbrain, that is rhombencephalon. So let us start the study of second major part of brain, that is midbrain. In Latin language it may be known as mesencephalon. Here meso or mesen, this word stands for middle and encephalon stands for the brain. It is the middle part of brain. Now let me tell you that the mesencephalon, it is present in between diencephalon and pons varolii. Please look at the diagram. Here with the help of this green chalk I have shown the thalami, hypothalamus and epithalamus. You know, epithalamus, thalamus and hypothalamus togetherly represents diencephalon, and this part, that is pons varolii, slightly bulged part, that is pons varolii. So I said the midbrain, it is present in between diencephalon and pons varolii. Midbrain हा ब्रेनचा जो दुसरा भाग आहे, मिडल पार्ट आहे, मधला पार्ट आहे, तो डायन्सेफेलॉन आणि पॉन्स व्हेरोली या दोघांच्या मध्ये आहे. या ठिकाणी आपण आकृतीमध्ये बघू शकता, here is a midbrain. This much part represents the midbrain. Now midbrain, it consists of two major structures. Midbrain मध्ये दोन प्रमुख स्ट्रक्चर्सचा समावेश होतो such as corpora quadrigemina. Corpora quadrigemina. And second part is cerebral peduncles or CRURA cerebri. First of all, let us talk about the corpora quadrigemina. Here quadra, this word stands for four. Quadrigemina means the group of four bodies or group of four structures. Let me tell you, corpora quadrigemina means these are four rounded bodies. Corpora quadrigemina, it is a group of four rounded bodies present in the thick dorsal wall of midbrain. Please look at the diagram. I told you this much part represents the midbrain. या ठिकाणी हा जो एवढा भाग आहे हा midbrain रिप्रेझेंट करतो आणि या midbrainच्या dorsal साइडला या ठिकाणी आपण बघू शकता here I have shown two small rounded bodies, two small protuberances. Of course, this is the sagittal section and that's why only two structures are seen here. या ठिकाणी ब्रेनचा हा उभा छेद घेतलेला आहे, sagittal सेक्शन आहे, वर्टिकल सेक्शन आहे आणि त्यामुळे या ठिकाणी आपल्याला दोनच राउंडेड बॉडीज दिसतात. Actually, here are presence of group of four rounded bodies or two pairs of rounded bodies known as corpora quadrigemina. So I said that corpora quadrigemina is nothing but simply it is the group of four rounded bodies present in the dorsal thick wall of midbrain. Midbrain ची ही जी dorsal side आहे, dorsal wall आहे, त्यामध्ये चार राउंडेड बॉडीच्या समूहाला corpora quadrigemina असं म्हणतात. Out of these four rounded bodies, the upper two rounded bodies are known as superior colliculi. Superior colliculi, plural, and lower one are known as inferior colliculi. Superior colliculi and inferior colliculi. Here you can see, here is a superior colliculus and here is an inferior colliculus. Now, what is the role of these colliculi? Superior colliculi are involved in visual reflex, while inferior colliculi are involved in auditory reflex. Now, what does it mean? Visual reflex. Visual reflex is responsible for the coordination between the movement of eyes and movement of head. Let me give one simple example. Visual reflex कशा प्रकारे कार्य करतं हे समजण्यासाठी एक छोटंसं उदाहरण देतो. Suppose we are sitting there in the tennis court, lawn tennis court. आपण एखाद्या लॉन टेनिसची मॅच बघण्यासाठी त्या ठिकाणी स्टेडियम मध्ये टेनिस कोर्ट मध्ये बसलेलो आहोत. And suppose during that tennis match that two tennis players continuously striking that ball from one player to another player. During that game, we usually look towards the ball. Whenever one player struck the ball to the another side, our eyes moves to that side. Whenever another player struck that ball to opposite player, our eyes also moves to that side. But during this, not only our eyes moves, but along with eyes, our head also moves in the same direction. This is nothing but the visual reflex. It means that these superior colliculi are responsible to control the visual reflexes, that is to bring about the coordination between the movement of eyes and movement of head. डोळे आणि मान या दोघांच्या हालचालीमध्ये समन्वय राखणं, this is visual reflex and that is controlled by superior colliculi. On the other hand, inferior colliculi are involved in auditory reflex. What does it mean? Auditory reflexes means it is the movement of head towards sudden and unusual sound. एखाद वेळेला आपल्याला जर एखादा unusual असाधारण अशा प्रकारचा आवाज जर ऐकायला आला तर चटकन आपली मान त्या दिशेला वळत असते. Consider you are there in classroom and learning very sincerely. कल्पना करा की तुम्ही वर्गामध्ये बसलात आणि अतिशय लक्षपूर्वक त्या ठिकाणी अभ्यास करता. Suddenly, if any vehicle passing along the side of your college or school and there is a busting of tire of that vehicle. एखादी ट्रक, एखादं व्हेइकल आपल्या कॉलेज जवळच्या रस्त्यावरून जात असताना अचानक समजा त्या व्हेइकलचं टायर बस्ट झालं आणि जोरात आवाज झाला. Unknowingly immediately we turns our head towards that side. This is nothing but the auditory reflex. याचा अर्थ the auditory reflex are responsible to coordinate the movement of head towards the direction of sound. Well, so here we have seen about the corpora quadrigemina. Now the second component of midbrain is crura cerebri. It may be known as cerebral peduncles. Cerebrum peduncles. These are pair of two thick nerve tracts. Cerebral peduncles किंवा crura cerebri म्हणजे these are a pair of thick band of nerves. Please look at the diagram. Now here is supposed to be the crura cerebri and these two pairs of rounded masses represent corpora quadrigemina. So here this part crura cerebri, it shows a pair of two thick bands of nerves such as ascending nerve tract and descending nerve tract. या ठिकाणी क्रुरा सेरेब्री किंवा सेरेब्रल पेडंकल म्हणजे त्या ठिकाणी दोन अतिशय थिक नर्व ट्रॅक्ट्स आहेत, थिक बँड्स ऑफ नर्व्स आहेत आणि त्यापैकी एक नर्व ट्रॅक्ट, one thick band of nerve is ascending and another is descending. You know, ascending means one who conducts impulses upward, that is towards the forebrain or towards the cerebrum. Ascending nerve tract याचा अर्थ वरच्या दिशेने म्हणजेच सेरेब्रम किंवा फोरब्रेनच्या दिशेने संवेदनेचं वहन करणारा नर्व ट्रॅक्ट and descending nerve tract means one who conduct impulses in downward direction, that is one who conduct impulses away from the cerebrum, away from the forebrain. So here that two nerve tracts, cerebral peduncles, are responsible to connect the forebrain with the hindbrain or cerebrum with the cerebellum. अर्थात या ठिकाणी या cerebral peduncles किंवा क्रुरा सेरेब्रीचं म्हणजेच त्या ठिकाणी असणाऱ्या त्या दोन थिक बँड ऑफ नर्व्हचं कार्य आहे फोरब्रेन आणि हाइंडब्रेन यांना जोडून देणं किंवा फोरब्रेन आणि हाइंडब्रेन यांच्यामध्ये एक प्रकारचं लिंकिंग तयार करणं. नाउ इन ॲडिशन टू दॅट दिस क्रुरा सेरेब्री और मिडब्रेन at its center shows a mass of gray matter scattered in the white matter. या ठिकाणी मिडब्रेनच्या मध्यभागी ग्रे मॅटरचे काही मासेस दिसतात, व्हाईट मॅटर मध्ये स्कॅटर्ड अशा प्रकारचे. दॅट मासेस ऑफ ग्रे मॅटर नोन ॲज रेड न्यूक्लियस सिंग्युलर and this red nucleus is responsible to control the posture and muscle tone of that individual. Try to understand. I said that at the center of midbrain there is presence of mass of gray matter scattered in the white matter. It is known as the red nucleus and it is mainly responsible to control the posture and muscle tone. What does it mean posture? Posture maintain करणं, muscle tone maintain करणं म्हणजे काय की जे या रेड न्यूक्लियसचे कार्य आहे. Posture maintain करणं means the way by that individual stands, the way by that individual sits, the way by that individual walks. याचा अर्थ एखाद्या विशिष्ट स्थितीमध्ये असणं किंवा एखादी विशिष्ट स्थिती राखणं याला म्हटलं जातं posture maintain करणं. Suppose here now I am in standing posture. Now suppose here I am in walking posture, isn't it? You are there on your benches, that is you are in sitting posture. And to maintain muscle tone means what? Muscle tone maintain करणे याचा अर्थ काय होतो? It means the continuous and partial passive contraction of the muscles in resting condition also. याचा अर्थ सर्वसाधारणपणे रेस्टिंग कंडिशन मध्ये असताना आरामदायी स्थितीमध्ये असताना सुद्धा कायमस्वरूपी अंशतः काही स्नायू हे अंकुचन पावलेल्या स्थितीत असतात, याला म्हटलं जातं मसल टोन. अँड दिस मसल टोन इज नेसेसरी टू मेंटेन द पॉस्चर. म्हणजे कोणत्याही विशिष्ट स्थितीमध्ये एक शरीराची ठेवण राखण्यासाठी काही स्नायू निरंतर आणि पार्शियल अंशतः अंकुचन पावलेल्या स्थितीत असतात, याला म्हटलं जातं मसल टोन. अँड दिस रेड न्यूक्लियस is mainly responsible to maintain the posture as well as to maintain the muscle tone. Now here through this midbrain it passes a narrow canal which is known as duct of Sylvius or ITER. या ठिकाणी midbrain मधून एक narrow canal पास होत असते, तिला duct of Sylvius किंवा ITER असं म्हणतात. I have already told you that this ITER, it communicates the third ventricle with the fourth ventricle. Third ventricle काय हे आपण मागे शिकलो आहे. Please recall yourself. I have taught you that the different parts of the brain are hollow. They enclose cavities, and the cavity enclosed by brain are known as ventricles. आपल्याला माहित आहे की सेरेब्रल हेमिस्फियर्स मध्ये असणाऱ्या ज्या कॅव्हिटीज आहेत त्यांना फर्स्ट अँड सेकंड वेंट्रिकल्स म्हणतात किंवा पॅरासिल्स म्हणतात. देन द कॅव्हिटी एनक्लोज्ड बाय द डायन्सेफेलॉन इज नोन ॲज द थर्ड वेंट्रिकल. वी हॅव सीन दॅट द फर्स्ट अँड सेकंड वेंट्रिकल्स आर कम्युनिकेटेड with the diocele with the third ventricle by means of narrow opening called as foramen of Monroe. So consider here is somewhere the third ventricle and the cavity of medulla oblongata ज्यावर आपण पुढे शिकणार आहोत that is known as fourth ventricle or metacele. मग या ठिकाणी जर fourth ventricle असेल आणि इकडे third ventricle असेल तर third ventricle आणि fourth ventricle यांना जोडण्याचं काम ही ITER किंवा duct of Sylvius करत असते, which is a narrow canal passing through the midbrain, that is ITER. So here we have discussed about the midbrain. Now let us move to the third major division of brain, that is the hindbrain or rhombencephalon. Hindbrain or rhombencephalon. Hindbrain, it includes three major parts. Please look at the diagram, such as cerebellum, then pons and medulla oblongata. Friends, just now we have completed the study of midbrain. I would like to tell you that the midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata also togetherly known as brainstem. आपल्याला ही गोष्ट पण माहित पाहिजे की मिडब्रेन, पॉन्स आणि मेडुला ऑब्लॉंगेटा या तिन्ही भागांना एकत्रितपणे ब्रेन स्टेम असं म्हणतात. एनिवे, सो हियर वी हॅव स्टार्टेड नाउ द स्टडी ऑफ hindbrain and I told you that the hindbrain it includes three major parts, namely cerebellum, pons and medulla oblongata. Let us see first of all about the cerebellum. Cerebellum and pons togetherly may be known as the mesencephalon. Cerebellum आणि pons या दोन भागांना एकत्रितपणे mesencephalon असं पण म्हणतात. Cerebellum it is also known as lesser brain, छोटा मेंदू. We have already studied in Forebrain about the cerebrum, that is telencephalon. आपण Forebrain शिकत असताना cerebrumचा अभ्यास केला, याला telencephalon असं म्हणतात. Cerebrum is known as the greater brain while cerebellum is known as lesser brain. Cerebellum it is present below the occipital lobe of cerebral hemispheres. Please try to understand. Cerebellum it is present dorsally, backside, below the occipital lobes of cerebral hemispheres. आपल्याला माहिती आहे की या ठिकाणी हा सेरेब्रम किंवा सेरेब्रल हेमिस्फियर मी दाखवलेला आहे. आधी आपण शिकलो आहोत की प्रत्येक सेरेब्रल हेमिस्फियरचे पार्शियली 4 प्रमुख लोब्स होतात, सच एज फ्रंटल लोब, ऑसिपिटल लोब, टेम्पोरल लोब आणि ऑसिपिटल लोब. या ठिकाणी हा ऑसिपिटल लोब आहे असं आपण कल्पना करूया आणि ऑसिपिटल लोबच्या खाली सेरेबेलम हा प्रेझेंट असतो. सो सेरेबेलम may be known as lesser brain and it is present dorsally towards the back side just below the occipital lobes of cerebral hemisphere. This cerebellum, it is second largest part of the brain. We know that cerebrum is the first largest part of the brain while cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain and it constitute 11% of total brain weight. सर्वसाधारण ब्रेनच्या एकूण वजनापैकी 11 ते 12% वजन हे सेरेबेलमच्या स्वरूपात असतं. नाउ दिस सेरेबेलम इज फर्दर डिवाइडेड इनटू 3 पार्ट्स. सेरेबेलमचे 3 भाग होत असतात, सच एज 2 lateral cerebellar hemispheres. 2 lateral cerebellar hemispheres. Name itself indicate. Hemispheres means half spheres. अर्धगोल. cerebellum चे 2 अर्धगोल which are present laterally and centrally placed vermis. Centrally placed part is known as vermis. मध्यभागी असलेला भाग vermis. Please look at the diagram. Consider these are supposed to be the 2 cerebellar hemispheres present along the lateral side and here is the vermis. This vermis, it appears worm-like. Vermis, this word stands for worm. As this vermis appears worm-like, that's why the name is so, vermis. Here I have shown the laterally placed cerebellar hemispheres. The cerebellum or cerebellar hemispheres also show convolutions and grooves along its outer surface, just like the cerebrum. Cerebrum शिकत असताना आपण पाहिलं की the surface of cerebrum shows many convolutions and grooves. ज्याप्रमाणे cerebrum वर बाहेरच्या बाजूने काही उंचवटे आणि खोलगट भाग आहेत, या ठिकाणी सेरेबेलमच्या एक्सटर्नल सरफेस वर सुद्धा काही कन्व्होल्यूशन्स, उंचवटे आहेत आणि काही खोलगट भाग, ग्रूव्ज आहेत. You know that convolutions are known as gyri and grooves as sulci. But the number of gyri and sulci present on the cerebellum are less in number as well as less distinct than the cerebral hemispheres. Cerebral hemispheres वर ज्या प्रमाणात आणि जितक्या डिस्टिंक्ट गायरी आणि सल्काय असतात त्यापेक्षा कमी प्रमाणात गायरी आणि सल्काय या ठिकाणी cerebellum वर प्रेझेंट असतात. The cerebellum also shows gray matter peripherally. This peripheral part of cerebellum is known as cerebellar cortex, made up of gray matter, and inner cerebellar medulla made up of white matter, just like the cerebrum. ज्याप्रमाणे cerebrum मध्ये सुद्धा पेरिफेरली ग्रे मॅटर आणि इंटरनली व्हाईट मॅटर प्रेझेंट आहे, त्याचप्रमाणे या ठिकाणी cerebellum मध्ये सुद्धा the peripheral part is formed of gray matter. It is known as cerebellar cortex and inner part made up of white matter known as cerebellar medulla. Actually, here this white matter is spread just like a branching of tree in gray matter. या ठिकाणी हा जो व्हाईट मॅटर आहे तो ग्रे मॅटर मध्ये ब्रांचिंग ऑफ ट्री, याचा अर्थ वनस्पतींच्या फांद्या ज्याप्रमाणे इतस्ततः पसरलेल्या असतात त्याप्रमाणे हा व्हाईट मॅटर ग्रे मॅटर मध्ये पसरलेला असतो. It gives tree-like appearance and that's why it may be known as arbor vitae. Here arbor, this word stands for tree-like appearance, and vitae, this word stands for vital, means it is highly important, highly vital in its nature. Why? I will tell you just after a few minutes. Second thing, the cerebellum in human being is not hollow. It is solid. It is without cavity. मानवामध्ये मात्र सेरेबेलम हा हॉलो नाहीये, त्याच्यामध्ये कुठल्याही प्रकारची कॅव्हिटी नसते. So here briefly I have told you about the cerebellum. Let me give a fast and brief revision. I said that cerebellum, it is also known as lesser brain. It is present just below the occipital lobes of cerebral hemisphere. It is the second largest part of brain and contribute 11% of the total brain weight. It may be known as lesser brain. Externally, it shows many convolutions and grooves, that is gyri and sulci. The cerebellum, it consists of three major parts such as two lateral cerebellar hemispheres and central vermis. Vermis, it appears worm-like. Then cerebellum, it shows peripheral gray matter known as cerebellar cortex and internal white matter known as cerebellar medulla. Of course, here that white matter is penetrated into the gray matter just like a branching nature of tree, so also it is known as the arbor vitae. Now let us talk about the role or function of cerebellum. So function of cerebellum. Cerebellum is an important center for equilibrium, balancing, orientation, moderation of voluntary muscle activities, to maintain the posture as well as muscle tone. I am going to repeat. I said that cerebellum acts as a very important center for equilibrium, balancing, orientation, posture, to maintain the muscle tone as well as moderation of different voluntary muscle activities, etc. etc. याचा अर्थ शरीराचा समतोल राखणं, कोणत्याही अवस्थेमध्ये असताना एक विशिष्ट पॉस्चर राखणं, मसल टोन राखणं, बॅलन्स मेंटेन करणं, या सगळ्या क्रियांचे केंद्र हे सेरेबेलम असतं. In addition to that, the cerebellum, it plays very important role in different quick voluntary activities, rapid voluntary activities such as walking, running, jumping, dancing, speaking, etc. etc. It is said that any damage to the cerebellum leads to the ataxia. Cerebellumला कुठल्याही प्रकारची इजा झाली तर त्यामुळे ataxia हा निर्माण होतो. It means there is loss of full control over the body activities. याचा अर्थ आपल्या ज्या शारीरिक ऐच्छिक क्रिया आहेत त्यांच्यावरचा नियंत्रण हा पूर्णतः त्या ठिकाणी जात असतो. Because I have already told you, it controls various voluntary muscle activities. Anyway, now come to the second part of hindbrain, that is pons varolii. Pons, this word stands for bridge or connecting link. Pons या शब्दाचा अर्थ होतो bridge or connecting link. Please look at the diagram. Pons, this part is present inferior to the midbrain. Pons, this part is present inferior to the midbrain. याचा अर्थ pons हा जो भाग आहे हा midbrainच्या खाली आहे. Superior to the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongataच्या वर आहे and anterior to the cerebellum. याचा अर्थ cerebellumच्या anterior म्हणजे front side ला present आहे. So here initially I told you the position of pons. Pons, it is present inferior to the midbrain, superior to the medulla oblongata and anterior to the cerebellum. The pons may be called as a pons varolii. Pons ला pons varolii असं पण म्हणतात. I told you that the pons, this word stands for the bridge. Because, and also it is known as the pons varolii after the name of Italian scientist, namely Costanzo Varalio. Costanzo Varalio या शास्त्रज्ञाच्या नावावरून याला व्हॅरोली ह्या प्रकारचं नाव दिलेलं आहे. कोस्टेंजो व्हॅरालिओ. Anyway, now the role of pons varolii. So pons varolii, it includes the nerve tracts which conduct signals, electric signals towards the thalamus, that is towards the forebrain, sensory impulses towards the forebrain, that is thalami, as well as it conducts impulses from cerebrum down to the cerebellum and medulla oblongata. As it connects both the cerebellar hemispheres, that's why the name is given as pons or bridge also. So here we have studied about the pons varolii. Now come to the next and third part of hindbrain, that is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, it is the posterior most part of the brain and it is present in between pons varolii and spinal cord. Consider here is supposed to be the spinal cord. You know, another component of central nervous system about which we shall talk in our next lecture. But we are talking now about the medulla oblongata. I said that medulla oblongata, it is the posterior most part of the hindbrain, posterior most part of the brain, and it is present in between pons varolii and spinal cord. This medulla oblongata is slightly pyramidal in shape. हा medulla oblongata थोडासा pyramidal किंवा त्रिकोणी आकाराचा असतो. Its upper part is slightly broad and lower part is slightly narrow. The length of medulla oblongata is near about 3 cm. It shows gray matter internally and white matter peripherally. Please try to understand. We have studied in cerebrum as well as in cerebellum, the gray matter is present peripherally and white matter is present internally. But here exact reverse condition is seen. In medulla oblongata, the white matter is present peripherally and gray matter internally. The cavity enclosed by medulla oblongata is known as fourth ventricle. Here is a fourth ventricle, and we have already studied that this fourth ventricle, that is the cavity of medulla oblongata, may be known as the metacele, is communicated with the third ventricle, that is diocele, by means of a narrow canal, that is duct of Sylvius or ITER. The roof of medulla oblongata is highly vascular. It means it is very rich in network of blood capillaries. It is known as PCP, that is posterior choroid plexus. मेडुला ऑब्लॉंगेटाचं जे रूफ आहे अर्थात डॉर्सल वॉल आहे ती हायली व्हॅस्क्युलर आहे. याचा अर्थ त्या ठिकाणी रक्तकेशिकांचं ब्लड कॅपिलरीजचं अतिशय डेन्स अशा प्रकारचं जाळं आहे अँड इट इज नोन ॲज द पोस्टिरियर कोरोइड प्लेक्सस. आपल्याला कदाचित आठवत असेल while studying the diencephalon we came across about the epithalamus and I told you that epithalamus it also shows a dense network of blood capillaries known as ACP, that is anterior choroid plexus, and here is a posterior choroid plexus. The role is same. It is also responsible for the secretion of cerebrospinal fluid CSF. The roof of medulla oblongata has 3 openings. Medulla oblongataच्या रूफवर 3 small openings असतात. These are named as median, foramen of Magendie, and 2 lateral openings are known as foramina of Lashka. Now, what is the role of these openings? These openings facilitate the passing of cerebrospinal fluid from fourth ventricle into the subarachnoid space. Try to understand. या ओपनिंगचं कार्य काय आहे तर फोर्थ वेंट्रिकल मध्ये असलेलं सेरेब्रोस्पायनल फ्लुइड हे सब अरेक्नॉइड स्पेस मध्ये पास होऊ देणं. You know subarachnoid space? It's a little space present in between middle meninx, that is arachnoid matter, and innermost meninx, that is pia matter. So here we have discussed about the medulla. Now role of medulla. Medulla oblongata, it has three vital centers. Medulla oblongata वर तीन अत्यंत महत्त्वाचे सेंटर्स असतात which control certain vital activities such as cardiac center. Name itself indicate it controls heart activity. Second, respiratory center which controls breathing activity. And third, vasomotor center which controls the constriction and dilation of blood vessels. So I said the medulla oblongata shows three and major vital centers such as cardiac, respiratory and vasomotor center. And that's why whenever it occurs any little injury to medulla, it leads to the sudden death, because injury to the medulla disrupt the functioning of any one of these center, and it leads to the sudden stopping of functioning of that center, and it leads to the death. Well, in addition to these vital centers, the medulla oblongata also acts as the center for certain less vital involuntary activities such as say coughing, sneezing, hiccuping, vomiting, yawning, etc. म्हणजेच शिंका येणं, खोकला येणं किंवा वाढती लागणं हिकअप्स किंवा यॉनिंग, आपल्याला माहिती आहे की आपण ज्याला जांभई देणं असं म्हणतो, या प्रकारच्या ज्या इनव्हॉलंटरी ॲक्टिव्हिटीज आहेत त्यांच्यावर नियंत्रण ठेवण्याचे केंद्र सुद्धा मेडुला ऑब्लॉंगेटावर असतं. सो हिअर वी हॅव डिस्कस्ड ऑल अबाउट द मेडुला ऑब्लॉंगेटा अँड ऑल अबाउट द हाइंड ब्रेन. सो लेट अस स्टॉप हिअर टुडे. थँक यू अँड बाय.